Good evening, or whenever you're watching this. This is StoryTime, Lesoul's Adventure, Episode 6. So settle in, cozy yourself up, and get ready to fall asleep as Lesoul gets ready to board a train, possibly, or maybe it's a limo. We're going to find out. Let's start the episode 6. Lesoul rose with a quiet groundedness, yet excited energy for the day. She walked over to the window, looking out over the London streets that were anticipating a busy day ahead, in preparation of what is to come. The soul stayed in the moment, grateful for this precious experience of soul connection. Tom had arisen at dawn to make arrangements for his and Lesoul's journey to Scotland and his home. As Lesoul gazed through the glass, she felt the hum of London's morning rhythms, a quiet pulse before the daily tempo quickened. Early sunlight painted soft gold across the rooftops, and in the streets below, shopkeepers rolled up their shutters, delivery vans navigated narrow lanes, and the first pedestrians wandered off in pursuit of their routines. It was a tapestry of human life, layered and full of promise. Within the sanctuary of her hotel room, she breathed deeply, savoring the simple delight of a new day. She pressed her palm lightly to the window, acknowledging the subtle thrill that coursed through her. Today, she and Tom would travel to Scotland. There was something so natural and right about it, as if written on invisible pages long before they met. While she stood watching, Tom was out there, handling the details with care and efficiency. She smiled at the thought of him, thinking back to the sound of his voice the previous night. How honest and open he'd been about wanting to share his world with her. She imagined him now on the phone securing plane tickets or perhaps consulting a map confirming their route north. Maybe he was conferring quietly with staff at the hotel, arranging a car to bring them to the station. His thoughtfulness made her heart glow. As she stood in the soft hush of her room, Lesoul allowed herself to feel every emotion, anticipation, gratitude, and a gentle current of love. The memory of Stonehenge and the golden energies still shimmered in her cells, weaving a subtle magic through her awareness. And now, stepping into this next chapter, the magic continued, only it was grounded in the everyday tasks of travel and companionship. In a few hours, they would set forth together, leaving behind one city for another, land of emerald fields and quiet hills. She had no idea what awaited her among the Scottish countryside, but Tom's home, but her heart was open and her spirit curious. Whatever unfolded, she knew it would be infused with meaning, guided by the same currents that had led them here. Lesoul drew away from the window and began to pack her things with a calm deliberation. Each movement became a meditation, a silent acknowledgement. I'm ready. I trust. I surrender to this flow. And so when she finally stepped out of her room to join Tom, she did so with an inner steadiness that felt like a blessing, carrying with her the resonance of a beautiful dawn in a life that seemed to be expanding moment by moment. Tom was in the lobby awaiting Lesoul stepping off the lift and into the lobby. He was awash with anticipation and excitement for the traveling day to follow and for Lesoul's enjoyment of it as they journeyed to his home in Scotland. A few minutes later, Lesoul appeared, looking beautiful and refreshed, radiating a brilliant glow about her. His breath was taken away by her energetic presence, and he knew with every fiber of his being that she was someone he was meant to be sharing life's surprises and adventures with. As Lesoul stepped off the lift and into the lobby, her eyes met Tom's, and the exchange required no words. The gentle hush between them was more eloquent than any greeting, a quiet resonance that said, "I see you. I'm glad you're here." The morning light streamed through the hotel's glass doors, caught her hair, casting soft golden highlights that seemed to dance as she moved closer. Tom managed a steady breath, though his heart quickened. He approached her with a warm smile and offered his hand, his voice low and sincere. "You look radiant," he said, and meant it more deeply than he could express. The energies of the last few days, the awakening at Stonehenge, the bond that had formed between them, glimmered just beneath the surface of this simple everyday moment. Lesoul gave his hand a gentle squeeze, her own smile bright and understanding. "I feel wonderful," she said softly, "ready for whatever today brings." There was a lightness in her tone that set Tom at ease. They were headed into unknown territory, yet the trust and comfort between them lent a warm certainty that all would be well. They made their way outside, where a car awaited to take them to the station. As they stepped onto the pavement, London's morning soundtrack enveloped them. Distant conversations, a soft rumble of traffic, the soft clatter of a bicycle passing by. Tom glanced sideways at Lesoul, who surveyed the world with a curious, peaceful air, as if taking in all the details and adding them to the tapestry of their unfolding adventure. Soon they'd be aboard a train heading north, leaving behind the bustle of London for the rolling Scottish landscape Tom held so dear. He envisioned her stepping onto his land for the first time, breathing in the clean, crisp air of the countryside, delighting in the gentle rhythm of his world. It filled him with a happiness he could scarcely contain. He helped her into the car and then followed, sitting close enough that the warmth of her presence was reassuring, but with enough space for both of them to relax. His hand brushed lightly over hers, a subtle affirmation of the journey they'd chosen to share. The driver, already familiar with their plans, greeted them kindly, and the car pulled into the morning traffic with effortless grace. They didn't need grand proclamations. Their quiet energy said it all. Within that luminous pause, Tom and Lesoul set forth, hearts aligned and open, looking ahead with anticipation to a day of travel, discovery, and the gentle evolution of a connection that knew was both new and timeless. As they arrived at King's Cross Station, the driver opened the door for Tom and Lesoul to step off. The driver then opened the boot, taking the luggage, following them through the station to their departing train. King's Cross Station bustled with the rhythm of early travelers, voices weaving in different languages, Footsteps tapping across the tiled floors and the rolling of suitcases echoed beneath the high arched ceilings. Tom and Lesoul stepped onto the platform. Their breaths mingled with the cool morning air. The driver trailed behind them, smoothly navigating the crowd with their luggage in tow, ensuring every detail of their departure was handled with care. Lesoul glanced around, taking in the train's grand architecture and the currents of anticipation that seemed to hum in the space. Trains pulled in and out, their engines humming, and overhead announcements drifted across the platforms. For a moment, she was simply another traveler in a sea of journeys, yet her heart brimmed with the quiet certainty that her path was unique and deeply meaningful. Tom paused to ensure that she was by his side, meeting her eyes with a confident, comforting smile. He pointed toward a sign for their platform, and together they followed the driver through the station's corridors. The scent of fresh coffee and pastries wafted from a nearby cafe, with a mild excitement floating in the air, as if every soul here was on the verge of something new. They said their farewells to the driver as he transferred their luggage to a waiting porter. After a cordial exchange, Tom slipped his hand gently around Lesoul's, guiding her toward their reserved carriage. The subtle warmth of his touch was more than reassurance. It was an acknowledgement of this chapter they were entering together. The train stood ready on the track, sleek and capable, as if it too understood its part in this unfolding story. Soon they would be gliding through the British countryside, fields and farms rolling past the window, carrying them ever closer to Tom's home in Scotland. This train ride, felt like a gentle, purposeful stride into an unwritten page of their lives. As they approached the carriage doors, Lesoul gave Tom's hand a small, grateful squeeze. The world around them buzzed, but within that shared glance, there was a stillness, two hearts steady in the stream of life's motion. They boarded without hesitation, leaving London behind and leaning into the promise of what lay ahead. As Tom and Lesoul entered the train, they felt taken aback to a time when traveling was done in a slower, unhurried pace. Lesoul gently sat down in their compartment and breathed a contented sigh of relaxation. Tom followed suit, settling into the seat opposite her, the subtle lull of the train already soothing his senses. The interior of their compartment was softly lit by natural light filtered through the window and the gentle hum of the train settling on the tracks, creating a comforting backdrop. Plush seats, polished wood, and the muted color palette gave the space a timeless quality, far removed from the frantic pace of city life. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Instead, they let the atmosphere work its magic. Lesoul turned her gaze toward the window, watching as people hurried by on the platform, luggage in tow, their journeys beginning or continuing. It felt good to be here, in this calm bubble of anticipation, suspended between departure and arrival. Tom admired her in that moment, taking note of the soft glow on her face, the way her shoulders had relaxed. He understood the feeling well, this gentle surrender into the flow of the day, trusting that all had been arranged in perfect order. Here, there was no need to rush, no deadlines pressing. Their destination would come in due time, carried along by steel tracks and a steady engine. He leaned forward slightly, softly smiling. "I'm glad we chose the train," he said, voice quiet and sincere. "There's something about this pace that feels just right. We can fully savor each step of our journey." Lesoul nodded, her eyes shifting back to meet his. The gentle rhythm of the train, the softness of the moment, and the warmth in Tom's gaze reminded her this was no ordinary trip. It was a threshold, a crossing into a world where connections deepened and horizons expanded. Outside, the train's platform began to slide away, and with it, London and all its bustle. Soon, fields and forests would appear, a shining panorama of England's landscape, heralding the approach of Scotland beyond. For now, they were at peace in their compartment, two travelers letting the journey unfold moment by precious moment. They had approximately 6 hours to enjoy the passing scenery, great conversation, and comfortable silences while in their compartment on the train. Although this was far from their conscious minds as they now sipped their warm tea and munched on biscuits and scones with butter and jam. Lesoul savored the flavors of the scone and fresh apricot jam perfection with the English tea. Tom watched Lesoul enjoy her scone, pleased at how easily they settled into this gentle rhythm of travel. The subtle clinking of porcelain cups and spoons set a soothing undertone, and the passing countryside outside the window began to shift into rolling farmland dotted with hedgerows and grazing sheep. Occasionally, the distant silhouette of a small village or church spire would emerge, only to drift away like scenes from a moving tapestry. They'd, they'd reached a space in time that felt both suspended and expansive, as if the train were a bubble moving through layers of history and landscape. No rush, no demands, just the quiet pleasure of being fully present. Tom appreciated that there was no need to force conversation. It arose naturally and then faded into comfortable silence. In those silences, he studied her face, finding delight in the smallest gestures, her eyes lighting up at the taste of jam, the way her lashes cast subtle shadows when she looked down at her tea, or the gentle tilt of her head as she gazed at him and smiled. Lesoul could feel Tom's contentment, and it resonated with her own. This was true presence, allowing each moment to unfold without trying to shape it. She dipped her scone into the tea, letting the flavors mingle, and closed her eyes for a second as the sweetness spread across her tongue. The apricot jam was indeed perfection, a small joy that reflected the larger joy of this journey and the man sharing it with her. They spoke about many things: the magic of Stonehenge, their impressions of London, and dreams of future travels. Then, when conversation drifted off, they'd comfortably watch the world roll by, silence offering its own kind of communion. Time slipped past, almost unnoticed. The gentle sway of the train and the warm richness of their drinks and treats made it feel as if they were nestled in a cozy nook outside the ordinary flow of life. Each mile brought them closer to Scotland, to new chapters waiting to unfold. Yet for now, the journey itself was the destination, rich in flavor, warmth, and the glowing connection that bound their hearts. Lesoul asked Tom, "Tell me about your home, Tom, and what it's like living in Scotland on a sheep ranch." Tom's eyes brightened at her question, as if he'd been waiting for this invitation to share his world. He leaned forward slightly, resting his forearms on the small table between them, the train's gentle rhythm serving as a soothing backdrop. "Well," he began, his voice mellow and fond, "it is a place where the land seems to breathe with a quiet strength. I'm just outside Edinburgh, in the countryside, with rolling green hills that stretch as far as the eye can see. On a clear morning, mists gather in the low valleys, making it look as though you're drifting above a soft white ocean. Over time, the rising sun warms it away, unveiling the pastures and the gentle slopes where the sheep graze." He paused to sip his tea, a spark of pride and affection in his gaze. Sheep farming is simple work in some ways, but it requires steady dedication. You learn to read the seasons, the sky, the land. Each year brings its own rhythms. Lambing time in spring, shearing in summer, the quiet dormancy of winter. The sheep themselves are both gentle and surprisingly stubborn. They have They each have their own personalities, and after a while you recognize them individually, appreciate their quirks. It connects you to nature's clock, to something timeless and unhurried. Tom's expression softened further. Then there's the farmhouse itself. It's old, built of a sturdy stone, with thick walls that keep it warm, even when the winds whistle across the fields. Inside, the floors creak softly, and the wood beams tell stories of many generations who have lived here before me. There's a cozy fireplace in the sitting room where you can settle down on a chilly night with a blanket and a good book, or just watch the flames dance. The kitchen is always welcoming. Fresh scones or oat cakes now and then, tea always at the ready, and the scent of fresh baked bread or stews when friends stop by. He looked into Lesoul's eyes, a gentle smile tugging at his lips. "It's not just a place, really. It's a feeling, a sense of belonging, of being held by the earth. In Scotland, people have a connection to the land that runs deep in our veins. It makes the pace of life different, slower, perhaps, more grounded. When I walk the fields at dusk, watching the sun setting, the colors of the hills are pink and gold. I feel as if I'm stepping into an ancient heart of the world." He drew a steady breath. "And I can't wait," he said softly, "to share it all with you." "Oh, yes, and the working sheep herders, my dogs, Sunny, Rosie, Emma, and Clark, who are experts in moving the sheep when and where I direct them." Tom's face lit up even more at the mention of his dogs. "Ah, the crew," he chuckled softly. "They're vital to the whole operation. Without them, managing the flock would be far more work than it already is." He settled back, picturing them in his mind. Sunny's the oldest, a steady soul who never seems to tire of guiding the sheep. She's patient, wise, and loves nothing more than a pat on the head after a day's work. Rosie's a bit younger, bright-eyed and eager, sometimes too eager. She's got enthusiasm for days, and I've had to slow her down on more than one occasion, but her spirit is infectious. Emma is a gentle handler. She's caring and attentive, never pushing too hard, but always getting the job done. She has a knack for soothing a nervous ewe, as if whispering some secret reassurance. And Clark, Tom grinned. Clark's a character, part mischief, part loyalty. He's keen and clever, always watching my signals. Give him a nod and he'll have the flock turned around and moving in perfect formation. I swear sometimes he anticipates my instructions even before I can give them." He looked at Lesoul, eyes shining. "They're my partners, really. We rely on each other. On a bright morning, we'll head out together, just me, the dogs, and the sheep. With a few whistles and a simple word, the dogs know what to do. It's a ballet of sorts, each dog taking its cue, moving just so, rounding up the flock with grace and purpose. Watching them at work is something I never tire of. And at the end of the day, when the sheep are safely where they need to be, they become lap dogs again. Well, big lap dogs anyway. They'll sprawl by the fire, tongues lolling, content with a day well spent." He smiled warmly at that thought. "I think you'll love them. They sense kindness in people, and I have no doubt they'll take to you straight away. I'm excited for you to meet them, not just my dogs, but the whole life I've built." Tom's description of his home and farm warmed Lesoul's heart. She could imagine Tom in his element out in the field with dogs and the sheep. Her heart warmed from his descriptions, which were lively and full of rich color. She would soon get to see firsthand how Tom had created a legacy of love. Another hour or so, and they would be arriving at the Edinburgh train station. The countryside drifted by their window and had gradually shifted. Hills grew gentler, the hues of green and gold subtler, as if the land itself were easing them into Scotland's embrace. They shared another pot of tea, spoke of little things, or simply gazed outside, lost in private thoughts of somehow wove seamlessly together in their shared silence. Lesoul could practically feel the fields beneath her boots, the soft murmuring of the sheep and the gentle barking of Sunny, Rosie, Emma, and Clark as they danced under Tom's calm direction. She imagined walking alongside him at dusk, hands clasped, breathing in the cool twilight air. There was something about Tom's voice, the way he described his home, that made her believe she wouldn't just be visiting. She would be slipping quietly into a life that felt so right, so inviting. Tom, for his part, was filled with anticipation. He watched Lesoul's profile as she followed the changing landscape, occasionally turning toward him with a warm smile. In her eyes, he saw understanding, acceptance, and a curiosity that enchanted him. He could already picture her standing on the porch of his farmhouse, gazing out over the fields, perhaps cupping a mug of tea, dressed in something comfortable and warm. He imagined introducing her to the dogs, showing her the barn, and guiding her along the gentle trails crisscrossing his land. They had about an hour left of this journey, an hour suspended in a gentle bubble of time where everything felt possible and nothing urgent. Soon they would emerge into the lively swirl of Edinburgh Station, collect their bags, and step into a land Tom had always called home. Only now he would see it anew, filtered through Lesoul's eyes and heart. He could hardly wait to see how the fields, the farmhouse, and the flock would glow differently in her presence there. For now, though, they savored the final stretch of their quiet travel, letting the train carry them effortlessly toward the next chapter of their story. And this is the end of episode 6 of StoryTime's Lesoul's Adventure. So I hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to leave a comment and let us know what you think, or give us recommendations on what you might want to see in the story. We are open to suggestions. But this story is definitely unfolding. We hope you are asleep already. And if you're not, we're going to say nighty night. Sleep sweetly.